Good evening. Good evening. I want to greet you all. I want to greet you all and thank you so much for coming through. What an evening this supposed to be in this Heritage Day. We are expectant and moreover, we are looking forward to spend some time together and, as we deliberate on issues of importance. Thank you so much for coming through. Thank you so much for being part. And I'm just going to as I welcome you all over the stream, those who are watching on StreamYard, those who are watching on Roku, those who are watching on YouTube, those who are watching on Facebook, to all of you out there, this night will be a night, and I believe that will spend with me an hour so that we can deal with matters, especially matters that absolutely pertains and moreover are of national interest. And it's important that we come together and as we deal with this matters, moreover, I would say decisively, and we become truthful about issues that pertains our lives. And all of you will agree that we are 20 something days, or would say 23 days in a month called Heritage. And what a what a disappointment that you could actually now come into such a dispensation and you find that you are still hungry and moreover you're still landless. And hence most people are still jobless. And so many things are happening, especially in a month which you're supposed to look at what is being done. And there are so many celebrations happening in September that takes on. I mean, the Jews today and also Christians are celebrating what we call, meaning also the Feast of Succoth, or I would say the Feast of Tabernacles. And they are waving the lulavs and moreover the beauty and the bountiness and the bountifulness of God. And in South Africa, we're celebrating heritage because reasons that we all know in terms of aligning ourselves in regard to, and which it's done on the 24th of September, which indicates where we are coming from. Now, I'm just going to call you because this heritage doesn't have a color, it doesn't have a race, it doesn't have ethnicity. It actually deals with the hearts of the people of South Africa, and across the human race. Everybody has a right to belong to a certain culture, and everyone has a right to be who they're supposed to be. Now, I'm going to bring it out to you for you to understand. For example, if you go to Zimbabwe and you get a Shona, meaning a family that eats Saza, they actually know why it's Saza so beautiful and so nice and so tasteful. But now a Tswana person might not understand, but that doesn't give you as a Tswana to be more prejudiced because you don't like what they're eating. Now, for example, you'll even run and go to the east, into Western Cape and the Eastern Cape, and you'll find the Ngunis who are called the Xhosas. And when you actually now understand what they eat, they'll tell you, "Sidla umngcutshu." Now, in other words, now to them it's tasteful and it's beautiful, but to you it might be something else. So we need to be careful of prejudice, because prejudice happens all the time. It's not about what the enemy has drawn in regard to black and white. We don't know color. We don't understand color. We believe that people are meant and made by God, and everybody has a right. You have a right to belong anywhere. You have a right to be the person that you're supposed to be. So God is actually different, and in his differences, he actually now throws to all of us to understand his multi graces and also multi meaning parties, in terms of a different type of people speaking different type of languages. And all of us, that to us, also to him, represents difference. And difference is what you need. It cannot be achieved through politics. It can't be achieved through any other, but only by God. So now I'm standing here as a man with many caps, and I don't mind, because that's what I'm called for. I'm a Josephite with a coat of many colors. So, but today I'm standing and over now declaring and under, this hospice of Kairos, TV channel, whereby our disclaimer said it is the final word. And we believe that this is the platform where we speak things and we declare only the truth. We don't hide things. We're going to speak as they are. So I am so thankful and delightful to come to this forum. And all of you are now also welcomed. And when we just, meaning the spirit of Ubuntu, I know that's the spirit of the Lord. And now go and just invite many people as you could. Just invite your brothers. Just take them. Just tell them, now the chairman is here. I'm about to talk to you about very important subject, and I believe your life won't be the same again, to understand exactly where we are, because it will require men who will speak the truth. And now we speak the truth until a time where even one who is actually fighting on the other side would agree and say, this, people are not, moreover, I would say, meaning illicit, but they are standing on what is truth. So now we are in that month, which we call the month of heritage. And it's said, as I said, it is a sad story to tell. Being in heritage, you find that people don't have where they stay. Our families, some of them are staying on the streets. Our parents, some of them are staying on this. Our aunties, right next to the Department of Finance, right next to the Department of Agriculture, right next to the Department of Health. You see, next to the Department of Settlement, or Housing and Settlement, you'll find our people sleeping there. No color. I'm talking about our people, South Africans are there. They are sleeping there. Why? Because they don't have a place to be, have no land, have no home which they can call a crib, or a place where they can lay their hurts. So it's very much important. Let's talk about matters that which we believe that now also on the mainstream, they cannot be touched, they cannot be talked about, because we are trying to hide. So I'm about to reveal even history that is not actually being brought into the universities, and it's not even taught, because it was moreover, I would say, there was much of disrespectfulness in however they've dealt with the chiefs and the kings of those times. And now they managed to also deal away with the history of the people. And now if history has been taken, you might not even know where you're coming from. So it's important that as much as some of you might be believing in what you're believing in, but it is important for people to know where they come from. It gives you the base. So now we have come to that time, and I'm just welcoming all of you now. And I'm saying to all of you, we're going to have a great time. But before I proceed again, can you just extend it now? We're going to have just 45 minutes of some how train. I tell you, it's going to be something great, and we will begin to learn this plane. And I need you to now communicate. Your communication is key. Write on the pad and just communicate and talk. And even things that we are talking, you can write them there, and for other people that will come and go through this video, so that they can also learn from what you have learned. So may we just begin to work together. Just type things that you hear the chairman talking about. It's very much important. Now tell them they can catch us on any other platform, meaning exclusive of even Facebook, and you can go on other YouTube and the other. Now welcome you all again, people of spirit. No, culture is greater than tradition. Tradition becometh a norm. So God fights a norm. He fights meaning what you call the normality, where people are accustomed, but he actually encouraged culture. Jesus is a culture. Everyone will have a certain way of how they live. As I was giving examples, even the kind of food that they eat. You go to Zimbabwe, Taza, and you go to the east there, Mnoshu, you go to KZN, meaning Iputu, you go to, you go to, meaning the north of South Africa, and you'll get the Itelela. So now you'll get so much, and then now, in other words, then you are learning other people's culture. And you go to Stellenbosch, you get them, you get the Boerewors there. You get a Boerewors, and I mean, that's a culture. That's what we are used, and you cannot, meaning just appear in a season or in a time or in an epoch or in an era and happen to now demystify. I mean, it demise all of those things. So we need to demystify them, break them, and extrapolate them, and put it in perspective until a time where all of these cultures are being now confined to one spirit and one over one faith, because that's where we have to come to. How can you come to any other thing if it's not God? All the kingdoms and the royal houses, there's no kingdom or other that would say we align with ancestry. No, no, no. Listen, you can't be aligned to your father, your mother, because they all are aligned to God. So now we need to speak the truth, and at times it hurts, but because I was also born in a kingdom, so I have the strength and the ordinance to speak about. So now, for being part of the kingdom, I understand that it's time for kingdoms and royal houses to realize the reason why even the royal houses in South Africa are being now set aside is because they've lost their flavor, they've lost their stance, because they have forsaken the God who is the creator of heaven and earth. And now people would say, no, yes, we love our parents, but now connecting with the Father, with God himself, that will bring grace and moreover a blessing over your household, over your kingdom, over the royal house. And it will moreover permit the restoration and the restitution, moreover, of the authority of your kingdom. So now what we're talking about here today has nothing to do with men, but moreover, these are the events that happened. So now I need you to come with me. Now we're talking Dompas law. I know when I said Dompas, when you feel like you are, as you are being called, maybe a black person, you feel like, oh, he's gonna talk about it. Yes, yeah, we must talk about it against maybe our white brothers. No, it's not about standing against our white brothers or our white sisters. Or no, we don't do that. We're here to talk the truth. And at times, even my white brother or sister could be there and say, oh, why is he talking Dompas? Because you thought you were aligned with whatever that happened there. Can I say this now? We need to find ourselves being delivered from what even our forefathers has done. Our forefathers have made so many mistakes, and your forefathers may have made so many mistakes that you don't agree with, but that doesn't make you a bad person. And then for this generation to understand that we need to speak the truth, and after the truth is spoken, then one thing that was not done in South Africa is that forgiveness was imposed, and from the head of the state and from one of the elders of the country. And after forgiveness was imposed, the truth, the reconciliation, the program was brought before the people. But the problem was there was no admission of a wrong, and you can't take on a verdict if there's no one who admits we were wrong, or yes, it happened, our fathers have done it. But now people politicize the matter to a point where we are today. That's why in politics, whether any other traditional political party will be using color or race cards in order to win the people, or whether against the blacks or against the whites. Someone says, I'm working and standing for whites only. You're wasting time, not in South Africa. Or blacks only, you're wasting time, not in South Africa. South Africa is a Nkosi Sikelel nation, is a nation, which is colorful, not just in rainbow, but because of the grace of God that is in this nation. So now you cannot, select a few and select the other. And I'm going to bring it to you now. All of us don't come from South Africa. Now I'm going to talk about this tomorrow. However, when I talk about land, don't miss it. Land at 3 p.m. It's going to be fire burning tomorrow at 3 p.m. during the day. We are talking what? Land. And I need you to be there so that you can grasp part of the things that we have, which I believe they'll change your life. So for now, as I said, now my brother is seated there. Someone is sitting somewhere, and maybe an orange, in Free State, and he goes like, "Oh, okay, this man is talking about this issue." Let me tell you something. Until we talk about it in a way that where God is the one who's leading it, you will see there's going to be great joy than any other. There's going to be great understanding, and understand the man who's talking, because I'm talking from a point of the national unity government. I'm talking from the point of the unism. I'm talking from the point of uniformity. I'm talking from the point where I know that healing doesn't come until we come to a place of deliberation. When there are negotiations and deliberations that are led by God in order to now liberate the people, then you will see liberation of the people. So I'm so much thankful. Thank you so much for coming through. I welcome you all. This is Kairos TV, and moreover, we shall exhume what we call the final word. The truth will be spoken, and some of the things will be like, moreover, when they're coming your way, there's going to be like an issue, but you need to take it, because sometimes life shouldn't be as you will. We need to, moreover, afford, meaning the will of the creator. And once we afford the will of the creator, you would see now, independent of race and ethnicity, there's going to be some uniform, some love that happens. So now, if the truth has been hidden, then the problem is, then it goes a long way. It brings on confusion. Now we are talking Dompas law, pass law. Can you imagine that? You don't want to live in such a world. You don't want to see yourself in that side of the world where there is a group of people that cannot go somewhere, or they can't use certain toilets, or they cannot go to certain stores, or they cannot even move to certain cities. They cannot find themselves in certain bus stops and so forth. So you don't want to live in that land. And it's not a beautiful land. And I'll tell you the reason why. We're having our fathers, and also who are white, who are Afrikaner, who are Zulu, who actually, when they think about these things, they cry tears. They are thinking of how could have they've done better, and how could have they have actually come up to a place and where they work it out amicably and agree for the benefit of this nation. You can imagine where South Africa could have been for the past 100 and something or 300 years until now. We could have been far, as Shrek has spoken, far. We could have been far. Why? Because of what? Of them coming together, but because they could not agree on certain matters, whether it's matter of governance or administration or any other sharing and other things. So then that became to now become a cause of a system which we all don't want to live in it. And we know for sure. I can tell you, I'm sitting here. There's a young man also sitting somewhere, in Stellenbosch. The other one is sitting somewhere, and in Free State, and he's saying, you know what? This man, I did not know what he's going to talk about, but now I can catch his heart, and I feel like I'm understanding what was happening. So you need to understand systems are spiritual. They are not manly. Yes, they are made by men, but they are enforced by certain powers. So if we fight these other powers, especially in the nation of Ngozi Sikelele, when we say Wozamoya, then the spirit will come. You will see, we will resolve. So people are resolving otherwise. That's why even when I deal with politics, people want to resolve politics pertaining their intellectualism and whatever they've learned in terms of communism and so forth. I deal with it pertaining to biblical principles, and that's my stand. That's what I'm standing on. Now, we're talking Dompas law in South Africa. Now, pass law were a form of what we call an internal passport system designed to segregate the population, manage urbanization, and allocate moreover migrant labor, also known as the what? The natives, what you call what? Law. And now the pass law severely limited the movements of not only the blacks. Now I want you to listen to this one. People don't know this history. Not only black African citizens, but other people as well, by requiring or designated areas. So now before the 50s, for example, now this legislation largely applied to African men. Now hear me very well, to African men, and attempts to apply it to women in the 1910s and 1950s were met with significant protest. So pass law were one of the dominant features of the country's apartheid systems until it was effective, effectively ended in 1986. And it's hooray. You see, it ended even before 1994. So it ended before freedom and so forth. So it means that even if there was a press, but we understand that also our our white, meaning also elders, they had to come up to a decision to say it cannot be this way. It can't be business as usual. While meaning they live as such, and now they had to make a decision. It was not an easy one, but they made a decision. We can blame on any other thing. Now, I don't want to politicize the matter, but the decision was made. They had a decision not to make a decision, but they made a decision. And we put actually a clap of hands and applause for that. Now, the first internal passport in South Africa were introduced on 27th June, for example, 1797, by McCartney, in an attempt to prevent Africans, hear this one, from entering Cape Colony. Now, the Cape Colony was meshed with the two Afrikaners, the republics in Southern Africa, to form the union of what you call the Union of South Africa in 1910. That's why you have your union building. So we'll come up to that soon. Now, unit building come from the Union of South Africa. Now, by this time, versions of pass law existed elsewhere. Now, a major boost for their utilization was the rise of the mining sector from the 80s. Pass laws provided what a convenient means of controlling workers' mobility and enforcing what contracts on them. Now, in 1896, the South African Republic brought in two pass laws which required Africans to carry a metal badge. Now, only those employed by a master were permitted to remain on the rand. Those entering the labor district needed a special pass which entitled them to remain for 3 days. Now, that they could be able to now go and remain there for 3 days and so. And those who had no document could not do as such. Now, legislatively, these things are went out from as far as 1797 to date. So we need to work on them in order to work out a national unity government. So when I talk all the time, I'm talking solution. I see something that is possible to be actually now reached out now, and moreover, it's possible together. When we stand together and work on it together, we are going to achieve what needs to be achieved. Now, it might not be politically, but it's your choice as an individual to hold hands with someone who has the same heart, and you would see change will come. Now, legislatively, therefore, the Natives in the Urban Areas Act of 1923 deemed urban areas in South Africa as white. Now, it was a decision, because now when you are in power, you've got power to control things. It's a decision. Now, biblically it says it's sin that has to be entered by men. So we don't have to put a color, but we are given that because it is important in regards to history. Now, therefore, then, and required all black African men in cities and towns. Now, look at here, this one, to carry around permits called passes. Now, at all times, anyone found without a pass would be arrested immediately and sent to a rural area. So it was replaced in 1945 by the Native Urban Areas Consolidation Act. These are the acts. So now it shows you the importance of everybody to now begin to now commit yourself, give yourself time, especially on billings, on bills. If you can check the bills and participate on every bill that the parliament makes, and stop saying, and those in our brothers in the church, stop saying, "I'm not called for this." You don't understand. The reason why you are here is because of the bill that was passed in parliament, and it was assented by one man who is the president. So they agreed or disagreed on the matter. So whether you sit in the church and do nothing, then the problem will arise. And we did nothing for our children, and we did nothing for our people in our nation. All of them, regardless of their race. So now we need to all stand, black, white, colored, Indian, all of us, we're going to stand. Now, one South Africa can't be reached just by slogans and politics, can only be reached by the truth. Not by being manipulated, by the truth. Be truthful and carry the truth in you. Talk the truth. You'll see oneness will therefore come and be evident upon our lives. Now I want to show you this now. Therefore, then you would see then that it was replaced, moreover, this pass in 1945 by the Native Urban Consolidation Act, which imposed what you call an influx control on black men, and also set up guidelines for removing people deemed to be living idle, or meaning idle lives from urban areas. So this statement I agree upon. We can't let people idle. You know, when I come into government, mine is to make sure that in the city or in the country, we cannot. Our foreign policies must be actually tightened to a form that when a child comes from Ghana, come to South Africa, then they coming through education, and they're coming for jobs, and therefore our foreign policy begins to now speaks on that, so that we can receive them with our hearts. We know that we've got a student from Ghana in the University of Pretoria, and we've got them an employee in ESCOM who comes from Ghana. So we receive them like that, beside us pointing on them, but only when policies are being laid well. And that will also give people to come in the country and not idling, but doing the right things, and not even permitting crime to permissiate, but also to allow the policies to become laws that will absolutely lead them accordingly. Now, then they did not allow idle lives from urban areas. Now, this act outlines requirements for what? For African people's qualification to reside legally in white metropolitan areas. Now, we are thankful everyone is in a metropolitan, and it's a step forward to something great. Now, to do so, they had to have Section 10 rights based on whether the person had been born there or resided there always since birth, or the person had labored continually for 10 years in any agreed area for any employer, or lived continually in any such of areas for 15 years. So that was the legislation. But now I'm going to break it down so to bring an understanding when it goes to laws and in the amendments of law. That's where injustice actually comes through. Because now the Black Natives Laws Amendment Act of 1952 amended the 1945, which I was actually now entailing, Native Urban Areas Consolidation Act, stipulating that all Black people over the age of 16, listen to this one, were required to carry passes. I mean, if I have to be an Indian or a colored or a white or a Black mother or father right now, and my daughter must carry the pass in order to enter somewhere or to go into a certain school, you know how you feel as a parent. You feel like it's prejudice. It's like you feel that weight in your heart, and you feel sometimes that's why even some of the children take their life, because they feel like they're worthless. They feel like they don't worth it to be part of a certain society. So I will agree, and you will agree as a parent, that this was not cool at all, and we can't even begin to now, applaud such. It was not cool at all for our children, not cool at all. Now, 16 years of age. Now, therefore, the Natives Abolishing of Passes and Coordination of Documents Act of 1952, commonly known as the Pass Law Act. I need you to write it down so you can learn more at your time. Pass Law Act repealed the many, moreover, regional pass laws and instituted one nationwide pass law, one, which made it compulsory for all Black South Africans over the age of 16 to carry the pass book at all times within white areas. So now this must actually now click something on you. Now, this law, which was put national, did not just arrive. It never was actually now enforced at a particular time, and everybody says yes. No, they enforced a couple of laws before, or meaning bylaws or bills or acts, and now those laws, were therefore enforced because now there was a kind of a momentum. Hence, we're talking today, Dompas pass, because it will take us to vaccine, passport. So if also vaccine passport is being left to actually now begin to have a momentum, whether in the workplace, whether at the airports, whether in the whole country, it will actually at the end permits those that are actually now administrating this nation to make it mandatory. So now we need to stand and deny and say it can't be, especially in such a country. I'm going to show you some of the things that even the people that are doing what they are doing to us today, they are the same people who have went through what we are talking about, and they fought for it. But now they are the same people who are enforcing the same Dompas laws. Now I'm going to show you this now. Now, therefore, you would see now the law stipulated where, when, and for how long a person could remain. The document was similar to an internal what? Passport containing details on the bearer, such as what? Their fingerprints, photographs, and the name of his or her employer, his address, and how long the bearer had been employed, as well as other identification information. Now, employers often entered what a behavioral evaluation on the conduct of the pass holder. So they assisted the government in that to say, no, he is in good, behavioral, or no, he behaves well, and so forth. And now that also assisted minimum over the, I would say, the home affairs of the nation to really know the people that are in the country or coming into the cities, basically on issues of jobs. Now here, an employer, for example, was defined under the law and could not, could only be a requested and denied or granted to be in a certain region, and the reason for seeking such permission. Now, under the terms of the law, any government employee could strike such entries, basically cancelling and permission and the permission to remain in the area. Now, let me show you this one. A passport book without a valid entry then allowed officials to arrest, imprison the bearer of the pass. Now, these passes often became the most despised symbol of apartheid. Now, the reason why we're talking Dompas law is because we want to also educate the people. Now, I would say the government must give it meaning to the people to find the truth for themselves. You need to allow. We cannot be found treated as if we dumb, that people can't react on such a kind of establishments where the government feels that they've got the power, where the president, the minister, everybody feels that they can enforce such pertaining or based on certain reasons. Hence the constitution, because now the constitution was to fight what was actually behind. So the question is, what is it that has changed now? What mandate do we have that actually begins to now deal with our people in such a manner? So whereby we'll actually now allow the Dompas squared to come on board. Dompas, the return. Dompas the return. Dompas the return matrix is now being permitted based on a reason of the pandemic. But now look at the fight that both our elders, black and white and colored, and look at how our fathers have fought. This was fought by our fathers. They did fight this. I'm going to show you something how they fought. My grandfather was part of them fighting this fight. Now let's come to this now. Now the resistance to the pass law led to many thousands of arrests and was the spark that ignited the Sharpeville massacre. Now, if you are from Sharpeville, like myself, who understands Soweto and we have understand Sharpeville, and I've been there, I had a father in spirit, also Bishop Molefe. We have Bishop Maliti, and those are our fathers. Now, may also soul rest in peace. Bishop Molefe. So now all our fathers who are there preaching the gospel, stating out over the word of God, trying to encourage the people. But now something happened in Sharpeville there, because we need to find a way even now on how we need to deal with this matter. Hence, to avoid massacre, to avoid arrest. There's no need for arrest. When the government start doing that, we will know that there's something fishy and must be taken to court so we actually can resolve the matter. Anybody does it, whether you're a president, nobody does it on behalf of the people that is left like that, because this country has a constitution to follow. Now here it goes. Now then it went and it says now on March 21, meaning 1960, and this led to the arrest of who? Of Robert Sobukwe. Now one of the icons, one of the liberational fighters. He was actually found, moreover, that right there in the very crossfire, and he was arrested on the very day. Now, colloquially, passes were often called the Dompas. So now they were what called the Dompas in accordance to how it was done pre-adventurously, literally meaning dumb pass. Now, can you imagine that? Dumb pass, meaning you wouldn't afford to call anybody dumb or domestic passport. Now, yes, domestic sounds much like moreover dealing with the local men and local women, but dumb pass is something else. Dompas is more prejudiced, and nobody wants to be called like that. It doesn't matter which color you are. No one, even today, where you feel like now black people have moreover come to the dispensation, especially of the politics. You don't have a right to call anybody by a name because you are now in leadership. So when you fight for something and you're fighting for justice, now then you go back, you use the same justice to exhume or moreover execute an injustice kind of government over the others. Then there's no peace. We have never actually come to peace. That tells you. So we need to go back and on the drawing board and deal with the amiss that was done at Codesa and begin to redo the Codesa and moreover so that we bring the truth of the Codesa and so that we can resolve the matter that South Africa is facing. Now, come with me here. Let's work on this one and see. Now, then, apart from discrimination against black people, there was also discrimination against the so-called colored people. And the colored people included all Indians, Chinese, and Arabs, as well as even those of mixed black, white ethnicity. Remember, I mean, by then, obviously, there's going to be a child that comes from, meaning a white man and a black woman. So God was allowing miscegenation and mixed breed so that he can bring calm to, around us. So that even when you think of killing, you think, wow, this one is my child. So God permitted that so that there could be a miscegenation, a mixed breed, so that we can come together. He was making sure that now a black brother loves a white woman, even it was like, that was prison, but or a white, a brother loves a black woman, and obviously was permitted. So those things had to happen in order to color South Africa in a different way. Now, for example, all of those were barred from the Orange Free State, but don't forget even the white women, they were oppressed. White women, they never heard. Our white women mothers and women elders, our elders, I mean, these are our elders, whether they are white or black or colored, they are our elders. And now they also had to go through this. Now, obviously, we know the privilege was to the white man, but it's fine. As I say, they are the ones who came to a decision to say, let's give it away. And we clap hands for that. Now, we need to keep on talking so that we pray on this matter and make sure that people stand together and deliberate on the matter so that we come to the solution of what we need to see happening. Now resistance by the so-called nationalists. Now, I'm so disappointed because, as I said at first, that, even what we are facing today in terms of threats all over the world, now it comes to South Africa in terms of your vaccine passports, and where it seems as if you can try to stand against, you are rebellious and so forth. I want to show you where that comes from. But now I want to show you something before I go further. Now, this discriminatory regulation moreover fueled a growing discontent from the black population. And now the 1910s saw significant opposition to pass the laws being applied to black women. Now, in 1919, the Revolutionary Syndicates, the Internationalist, the Socialist League of South Africa, in conjunction with the syndicates or the syndicalists, Industrial Workers of Africa, and the early African National Congress. Now, can you imagine this? Now, it says now organized a major anti-pass, meaning a campaign, which the statement, I'm going to fix it because that's not it. Now, we need to talk the truth here. We need the truth. Now, however, this was being put that way. The 1950s saw the ANC began what defiance campaign to oppose the pass law. This conflict, meaning climaxed at the Sharpeville massacre, where the anti-pass protesters, led by the rival breakaway, the Pan-African Congress of Azania, PAC, the PAC. I'm going to talk about them because, they're being forgotten. They're being forgotten. They fought for land and all. They're being forgotten because they don't have the numbers that people want. But now surrounded the Sharpeville police station, prompting the police to open fire, killing 69 people, then injuring over 180. So this notion of that ANC fought, no. There were other people fighting. So we don't owe anybody anything. So we need to come to that in conclusion. ANC, we don't owe anybody anything. We don't owe anybody anything. So we need to come to that conclusion. Many people fought. and they need to be recognized. PAC, the Black Consciousness Movement, and many people fought. SACP, they all fought. Doesn't matter how lukewarm they can be today. Doesn't matter how lukewarm they can become today. But they fought and they stood. And for that, we remember them. And I want to say, to all, even now, all our over forebears. Now I'm going to take it further, because the forebears were not the first cream that will stand out and fight, but the forebears were actually now introduced by the chiefs now, whom are also now being neglected and forgotten. Now the chiefs also, that's why I'm actually standing today to say, in this day in September, where we are celebrating heritage, to say, let us restore the royal authority. They were the ones standing. Politics were known by them. They were the one killed more over than any politician. So now politics came even after, but they were the fathers of the household. They were the lead. They were the inceptors of what was happening in South Africa. They were the landlords, if I can put it that way. Now I'm going to put it promptly. Now continue. Subsequently, protests and strikes were met with major repression, and there we saw that all the nationalists were what? Were both, all of them were banned and in the country. Now, before that, you see, that's how history, that's how we need to get down and understand the history that is given, that has been put on the social medias or on the media. But we want to understand which history is now, which was amended, which history that was discontinued, which history that was taken out in order to suit the political spectrum. Now I'm going to bring you down to the history, so that as I come to conclusion of some matters, you get to understand. Now, this is how things are. This is the Dompas we're talking about, where we are coming from now, and what we are facing today, especially as a people. Now, I need us to get to this, meaning get to understand this notion. Now, which I believe one of the kings is not even mentioned. Now, most often time when you stand out and fight for what is right, you are called rebellious, or there's a rebellion. Now, hence, even now, people who are standing for the truth are rebellious. And you might not like them because they're speaking the truth. They're rebellious, they are this, they are that. But history will judge you. History will tell that if you would stand there and allow people to do what was done, which is an injustice, and even yourself as a leader, a president, a minister, you are not going to be a minister forever. Can I ask? Can I show you something which is very dangerous? In 100 years from now, all these presidents that are fighting now on becoming leaders of the world and the wealth, and they will not be around. Can I get, if you're from church, give me the amen. If you're from a kingdom, give me bayeta. Come on, give me that. If you know what you can say in your language, give me that aina, and say now so. Now I need you to talk as you will, because this is the truth. I mean, this is the very much truth, and we need to talk about it. Am I right? It's very much important for us to really deal with the matter. You are called rebellious because you're standing against something which we know that is not right for the people. Now, unfortunately, some people, you don't have a choice. When you're called for that, you're called for that. And you will stand. It doesn't matter. So you stand and you speak the truth, and until the truth sets the people free. So now I want to show you a particular, I would say, bayete to these chiefs and kings that stood, and they were called rebellious. Hence their war was called a Bambata war. That's why now on the we see here stipulation of the war, of which they say it was for ANC, therefore. But then the war before that, the 1906 war, was not actually now being brought to account, as meaning to tell in regards to in regards to the truth of the matters of what is really happening in our country. Now we need to make sure we don't forget our people. You can't forget the Khoi and the Khoisans. You can't forget the Gunis. I don't want to say Zulu or Xhosa or Ndebele or all of them. The Gunis. You can't forget. I mean, the all who are coming from. I mean, the Botswana, and so you can't forget nobody, because all of us, we don't come from Africa. We don't come from South Africa. We are coming from somewhere. We came here. And yes, we're the first to settle. But now we need to make a decision in a way that even it will absolutely bring, I mean, what you call a unionism in terms of the love we must have for our brothers also. And whether they are coming from outside, we must love them. and understand that also even when we were going through stuff, they took us in their homes. So we cannot bring prejudice, and hence we're talking as a nation of peace. We can't do that. We can't do that. We can't take sides. We need to stand for the purpose. That's very much important. We need to be prepared for that. We can't be taking sides against Israel. Israel must be banned from this and that. We can't be doing that. We need to sit down with Israel and Palestine as a nation of peace, and so that we bring things to perspective and the truth be spoken forward. It's a sibling, a brotherly kind of a war that can be actually dealt with by the people accordingly. Now I'm going to come to this one quickly there. Now here there is what we call a Bambata war that actually now ushered the people that I'm going to talk about to World War One, and others went to World War II. I'm going to give you now a background history, which includes King Zwide, which is my grandfather in our lineage. And as in today, we have King Zwide, meaning S.J. Ngumalo, King Zwide the Fifth today. So now, in other words, I'm going to give you something which is alive. And if you are in the court of law, if you are in the government, if you want to sit down and talk about the matter, we call you to say, we are available, talk about the matter, and let the truth be known. We're not going to afford to allow anyhow how things were done in the past, and kingdoms were taken for granted because of how other kingdoms were raised because of blood. Now, I'm going to come to this so we can understand. Now, I need us to look at this very quickly and see what we're talking about here. So now it's a background history of King Zwide III. Now, this one is King Zwide III, our grandfather. Then he actually now have encountered such. And on Bambata War, which it's important for you to get to understand what we are talking about in this matter. Now, King Zwide III, during the War of 1906, which was called Bambata Battalion, and now they can call it rebellion, but it was battalion. These were meaning men of war. These were meaning warfare, souls and spirits that came about to say, they were fighting for their own rights and amalungelo wabo. Now the war, this was called the War of Dompas Audit, meaning in South Africa. It was not a war of just tax and taxation and however it was being put out there, as if it was more of a business transaction. It was a war of Dompas Audit. And I know you understand, wherever you are, understand it was a war of Dompas Audit, which is likely to happen in South Africa. We don't even know what's going to happen, but we don't need to fight. We just need to fight through principles. We need principles. We need to put out, we need to deal pertaining of the acts. We need to go back to the Constitution. No fight, no bloodshedding. We need to deal with it in principle. We don't even need anybody to use the Mafariaism kind of tactics, or anybody to use a dictatorial kind of power over the others and the hand of fist and over. We don't need that. And we are saying no to that, to anyone who is in leadership. Give people a chance to sit down. And they might actually, when they tell you the truth, they might save you from what we see happening. So we are asking for that. So if that could be the case, that where we can deliberate as a nation that knows how to sit down and deliberate on matters, will definitely come to conclusions that will definitely raise up this nation to another dimension of its prosperity. Now here it goes. It says now, you will see here that he was actually the man, Zwide. He was the man, Zwide the Third was the man who came with the master plan to defeat the whites, the English. Now hear me, they were whites, yes, don't mix them up and say the whites are the Afrikaners. No. You know the way we are like this with the Afrikaners in terms of our behavior, our culture. We are like this. It's fine, yes. We take time to understand in English, but in Afrikaans we're like this. We eat boerewors together. You understand what I'm saying? Boerewors and gravy. So, and pap. So we are like this. So now we have become siblings like that. So now I want to show you something. Now, after fighting the whites, English, because whites had guns and killed at the long range. Now, this history is not actually being put out there, and people are hiding this history. So I wanted to know this history. Now, It's not even out there. They want to omit it. They took it off for their own political agenda. Now, the plan to defeat the whites, and because whites, which are the white English, had guns to kill at the long range, he came up with the plan. Zwide the third, King Zwide the third, with a plan to use, and they called it a master plan, to use leaves. I want you to see this one. They started and they said to them, there's going to be what we call an exemption, where Dompas has begun. And they denied the exemption. And after denying the exemption as chiefs and kings, then they were killed at the long range. Then now, after being killed at the long range, then they came about again to enforce the same law or act in a particular time. Now, in 1906, then when that was enforced, Bambata went to King Zwide III, and now to absolutely begin to now come into a partnership, an agreement of some sort, Imshang and Oshang. Then as they come there, Oshang, then they are able to sit there at the Parliament of Kings, and they talk about the matter and begin to have a verdict on what is that they're going to do. They decided to go and they fight. And now their fight is going to be different, because they're coming with spears, and someone is coming with a rifle. I saw that things that are written here, that a white English man was shot with a gun. Where? Guns where? So they were using spears, moreover, yes, unless if they steal it or they take it from someone. But they were using spears. Those who had guns were the English whites. It's very much important to understand that. Now, then, this master plan was there to defeat them. Now, because the whites had guns and killed at the long range, and he came up with a plan to use the leaves, rolled in a form of a human head, like a decoy, a human head. When the white English shot the rolled lead, thinking it was impi, the warriors, they were thinking, these were battalions. They were not rebellious. They were warriors. They were battalions. They were fighting for their own rights. Now, when they shot, thinking they were shooting impi, the warriors, because they took their leaves and they put them together like a head of a person and like a decoy, then they put fire on the leaves, on those leaves. And now when it began to burn out, it was like you are holding something going to what? To burn, whether their place of rest or their camps and so forth. So they were shooting towards what? Towards the decoy, towards the leaves. Now, I want you to see this master plan in how it worked. Now, therefore, then, because they thought it was, moreover, it was rolled in the form of a human head, they thought it was what? An impi, an warrior. He told them to pull them down, that it as if now he helped to what? To win the war, meaning to when they shoot, they pull them down, they take them down as if like one soldier or one Mabu Twain, one warrior has fallen. Then it will be like when that fire goes down, it's like one of them has fallen. But let me show you now. I'm unfolding now the plan. Now, after some time, the white English traced the person who came up with the plan. Why? Because now this is what happened. Now they actually went on the side. They went on the side, and therefore, as they were shooting towards the grass, then they conquered them. Now, when I look at the history, in how it was written, now 30 white people were killed, and thousands of this Zulu, or as they were called, were killed. That's not true. And those were not only Zulus. Many of them were there. We had, you had Bambata, you had Mekulu, you had of the chief of the Dwaba, you had of the Transvaal Mount chief Muhaduba, of the Pedis of the Mamapolo, you have another from Maputo. You had all the kings that came together there. And it's very much important for you to understand. There were many names of kings that came together. But I want to show you something that happened here, which will tell you that history was not written the way it was supposed to. So now, when they heard of the men we have to win the war, what did they do? After some time, they traced him, and therefore they went up to check this man who came up with the plan. They apprehended him. That was King Zwide. King Zwide III, and now was apprehended. Who is the king over, of King Zwide V right now, S.J. Moman. Now then, Then they apprehended him, they arrested him. So he hid himself for what? For 3 months in the bush. Imagine, can you imagine that? Running away from the white, meaning English. Then he was arrested, taken to Robben Island. So Nelson Mandela was not the first man at the Robben Island. Now there were men at the Robben Island, but now the story is not told. Now these chiefs were taken, or kings were taken into what? Into the Robben Island. Now there were 4 traditional leaders in the Republic of South Africa arrested. You see how they were calling them traditional leaders, chiefs. They were demising them from their kingship and royalty. Now then it went as far as the 4 that now then they were arrested, and one from the Eastern Cape was Paramount Chief Dwaba of Mekulu, one from Transvaal, Paramount Chief Mohaduba of the Pedi of Mamabolo. So you can see this is a diversity. And another from Maputo, Paramount Chief Mtombeni of Tembe. And also King Zwide's, meaning the 5th grandfather, King Dlomo of Zwide Ngumalo, meaning King Zwide the 3rd. This is very much important. Now we need to understand that King Dlomo, we talk about king, meaning whom is Zwide, whom is Ngumalo. So now out of all of those, and whom stands for the Mkashwas, Abumkashwa, Nabungumalo, you know, and now he's the one that I'm talking about now. Then now King Zwide the 3rd from South Africa, over the 4, and now then they were all in prison. The reason why they were arrested, they could not, by law, you could not just kill a king, by law. Whether maybe they will kill them when they are fighting them, but just you couldn't just kill the king. So now they knew that if we can take them somewhere, and even if they die there, then we know that they've paid maybe for their sin. That's what they thought. Now, what they did, therefore, they took all these 4 kings because they could not be killed. They were taken into World War to fight what we call World War I in 1914. Now, I need us to understand this. South Africa must start talking about these things, because our hearts are bleeding when things are not being spoken of, when the truth is not being revealed. Now, that is the truth. Now, here it goes. Then World War I in 1914, these 4 kings were actually moreover allocated to war. And there was a Second World War, which again, meaning King Zwide III went in 1939, meaning he went and fought there. And I mean, many of them came back, even the father, meaning to one of the politicians in South Africa, who is our Indian brother. His father also was in that war in 1939, and now went and they reside in Kranskop at Greystown. So now, in other words, this is the true story of what we are talking about, meaning at the site of meaning Sizabantu. You see where the whole land, meaning there, belongs to King Zwide, meaning the 3rd. Now, I want to show you something here, which is very much important, so that I run with it quickly without taking much of time before we close. Now, during 1914 of the World War, they were released to become part of the white soldier. So now they went and they were entrusted to go and fight. As I said, now in a hope maybe they will die. They went all over the world fighting, and they were all very, meaning blessed or lucky, they say, to come back, meaning alive. Then now also they came back alive, and how they came, it was spectacular. Now they were found in Germany, and now they were in Germany, and they were imprisoned in Germany, and they managed to escape there. And by what? By a very much, interesting story. They managed to escape, which I will tell in a while. Then during 1939, the Second World War started. They were again made soldiers, promised by the white English, and moreover, now they were conclusive with the white Boers, and that they came, they come back, they would be given their land back in RSA from the land affairs. Remember, the land affairs was just a transaction made as moreover administrationally doing it for the kings. But now at the end, we know the manipulation that took place. Now they were also taken to the World War III, meaning 1939, where they also did not die. They managed to come back. That they came back, they would be given their land back in the RSA or South Africa. During the First War, they were captured by Germans. They lost hope and became slaves. They thought they would actually never get back home. They cleaned the prisons, cooked for the prisoners, salvaged the plane. And now I wanted to listen to this one. And even the German soldiers' boots. Now, there was a very large aeroplane that was actually not in use. They looked for the plane's key so that they can actually now escape. They told their captain in the prison that they had won a key. And now look at this now. The day they escaped, they actually serviced the plane as they were there. They serviced the plane for some time. And after the plane was serviced, on that very day, they even took up some of the prisoners who were German, who came on board. And some of them were also offloaded there at Kranskop. And now today we are having Germans here. We have them here. We have many of them here. That happened in the First World War. They loved the land. They asked for the land, and the king gave them the land until today. That's why it's very much important to talk about these matters. The very same land in Graskop was given and moreover shared to some of our brothers coming from Germany. And now some of them are old and they went back to Germany without even paying even a cent on that very land that needs to be retained to its rightful people or owners. Now, just to take it more over to you, is that plane was serviced, and after it was serviced, which is sometimes it's an amazing grace to read the story and hear the things that were done, which are not normally under any normal circumstance, they are not doable. But this was done. And this is what happened. Now, they therefore, after telling the captain they've got a key, they filled the German plane with 25 liters of petrol. Can you imagine jet fuel? The jet fuel was being put there. But now something amazing which they did, which they can testify more than us, and filled the rest up with water. They filled the big plane, which would be used for escaping with petrol, meant for the German soldier who actually guarded the prisoners and were kidnapped by the prisoners who took their uniforms and disguised themselves as soldiers. The German soldiers were put on the plane and escaped them with them to South Africa. So they arrived in South Africa, and the Germans saw a beautiful land and a rich place in RSA. They begged to stay and started farming there. That's why when you go to KZN, which it's now called KZN today, but if you go there, KwaZulu Natal, which is another myth, you go to KwaZulu Natal, you'll see there that most of the German, even families or German businesses there and doing business on the land, because on that day they also managed to come up with them and they be part of them. Now I want to give you this. Now they begged to stay and started farming, and King Zwide III, therefore, with all the land and the 47, 1,500 farms that were there, 47 in KwaZulu-Natal, ranging from Pietermaritzburg to Durban, and 1,453 in Transvaal, going to the Orange Free State and ranging in Mosina. All the land, because remember, Zwide, the traveling, going to Mosina and going to Mafikeng, the Spray Town, and the town, all the land that was there, they dwelt, and until today, they were not given their land. Now, I want to show you something. Now, here is a man, a king whom the nation might not be talking about. Now, who took up a plan, and on this plan, on a Bambata battalion, which is called the Rebellion War. How can you be rebellious when you're fighting for the right? Now, they took a plan of a master plan from this king called Zwide. Then Zwide, with all of them, executed the plan until they got victory. And it's not even written that they were victorious, because that they managed to even kill as many that they could have, were supposed to kill. We don't support killing, but it had to happen there because we're in a fight. But now this thing now, it becomes it's hidden in history, so that people don't know the truth. That now the Babata War was a war for Dompas audit, and the chiefs or the kings, or meaning which were actually present, they denied to produce a passport or in that matter. So until then, it was enforced in the later stage through apartheid. Now, this to it must bring us to an understanding where we are today. The reason we're talking Dompas law, we are saying all these acts were a build-up to law. Now, until a certain time, law to the nationwide was therefore enforced. So if that happened then, it can happen now. So now I am trying to show you that Dompas law was there. That also is equivalent to what we see happening today, where there is what we call vaccine passport. What is it? What will that be? That we segregate our people, the other one doesn't have a passport, the other one has a passport. And one thing I love about what's happening now, it is no longer about color. It's no longer about whether you are black or white or whether you are colored or Indian. Whether it doesn't matter who you are. Now it's about your children, your grandchildren, your grand. It's about your father, your mother. Now it's no longer about color. It's about the soul. It's about the respect of the soul of humankind in this nation of South Africa, in Africa in general, in the world. So I'm here to declare that now Dompas and laws were actually moreover enforced through many acts that were unfolding and were permitted by even our people. But now we cannot afford to go back to the season where you must showcase in order to remain or to have. So we need to find that kind. It's more of it has an apartheid kind of a. You would see now that apartheid is not white. You now understand that apartheid is not Afrikaner. Apartheid is spirit. That's why you will know. Once you know that, you will love and forgive. You know you will hug and love your Afrikaner brother, taller than me. Hold them like this. Take them up and just love them. Why? Because then you will understand the love that they all are having. Most of them actually are longing for your pardon, you just having peace and coming into what? Into a place of building. You just having peace and coming into a position of understanding that the past is then, yes, let's deal with it and reconcile, but we have the future. But we won't have the future until we understand such things. So now the apartheid, you thought it was actually having a color. It doesn't have color, it's spirit. It's a system. Now, even now, we're facing the same threat of the Dompas law. And if we will allow any act or bill to be passed, whether parliament or taken by anybody in the country, if we allow it as the professionals, lawyers, and health professionals, and royal authorities, and politicians, if you allow this to happen here, we are going to have a regression for the next 300 years because of not doing things the right way. We need to say no way, it's a no. And no, it's a no, brother. It doesn't matter whether you are a president. If it's a wrong thing, we say it's a no. President doesn't make a decision alone in the country. We have a constitution, and we would like to say, and I stand out to say, debate on the matter. Give South Africans a chance to debate on the matter. Debate on the matter. I'm available. If you want to debate, call us. Let's debate on the matter. Let's sit down, call us. Let's hear where you're coming from so that we can tell you where we are coming from. Then as a nation, we can together make a decision. And I tell you, a decision made by a nation saves souls. It saves leaders. It actually now exempts leaders from many things. Nobody will fight for leaders when they are in certain relationships or international relationships. You won't fight for them. But the only people that can fight for their own presidents is the community. And I'm calling that the community must fight for their own president through prayer. Hold him and allow us to make decisions for you, president, so that at the end of the day we are fighting for you. We know what you are saying. Allow the community to fight for you. I'm going to just say now, let the administration that knows the pain that its people are going through and which they cannot withdraw from whatever procession, whatever that is happening. Now allow your people, the community, allow South Africans to fight for you. Allow them. Let the president allow South Africa to fight for him. You see the fight where they are fighting, they say, we can't do this in this nation where we're not going to become a banana republic. Or if somebody's actually now threatening to imprison people, to kill people, we can't allow a barbaric kind of approach. So how about we sit down? And when you come from that boardroom and you are being told by the whole nation that we are not going to allow this, I tell you, it doesn't matter who has a hand on the throat of our leaders or who has a hand on the administrators. Doesn't matter what external force comes, whether from the West or whatever external force that comes. It doesn't matter. It will not have power if you can allow the community to fight for you. The president, if the community can fight for the president and say no to certain things, we are going to actually fight the system. We are going to deal away with the system. We are going to break away the system. And we will exempt even our presidents. And I hope that the president can hear this. Give him this one. This one is an exemption for all of us. We don't need an exemption to get into a restaurant. We don't need an exemption to get into your restaurant. We don't need an exemption to get into the hospital. We don't need it. We said no because our blood are aligned to our forefathers and our forebears. And they said no, they fought it. And now the blood that was shed in Sharpeville, which was led by the ANC and the PAC, it cannot be in vain. We can't allow that to happen. If the PAC is quiet, then we've got a problem. If the ANC is quiet, then we have a problem. But I'm calling on for the ANC, the brigades and the cadres and all that have actually fought the good fight of faith to stand out and begin to talk about this matter and begin to hold hands and know that the time is now for them to do the right thing. And I can tell you the brigades and the elders, I heard the elders talking when they thought there was corruption, but they're not talking anymore. They were talking when there was corruption, but we don't know what force is actually keeping them from not talking. They were talking about corruption. Some of them, even our elders, were saying ANC is this and that. But now, nobody's talking about this time that we're in. Who is actually now taking lead on this? So now, if it's not our people and it comes externally, let us allow the community to fighting for our president, fighting for the liberation that was actually fought, meaning through blood, fighting for the 100-year-old political parties to make sure that they remain on what they wanted to do and make sure they see the result in the nation. That's important. That's very much important. And that is what we must do today. Allow the communities to make a decision. Nothing should be mandatory. Nothing should be enforced to the people. Give them a prerogative to make a decision. Black or white, colored, allow them to make a prerogative. Now we know apartheid is not a color. Apartheid has no color, no color, white or black. Apartheid is a system, and it's spirit to those who knows the spirit. So what we need to do is to allow another way of doing things to deal with the regime. Now, this can be done only unless if there's no agreement. Obviously, someone is enforcing civil and things we don't need. We don't need any civil unrest in this country. We don't need it. We actually condemn it. We nullify every heart. We don't need it in this country. In this country, we can win through a table. Let's go to the table. We are calling for the president. We are calling for everybody, leaders, cadres of the nationalist parties. Come on board. Let us sit down. Remember where you're coming from. Remember when you actually lost your loved ones, when their blood was shed. Remember how your comrades have fought. Remember how the chiefs have actually been killed. Remember how things have happened in the past. You cannot allow that to be in vain. Remember how our brothers and sisters have died in Sharpeville. Remember how they've died in Wipato. Remember how the death that happened now in Johannesburg, the death that happened in the whole entire country. Remember that. You can't actually forget that. Our brothers have to go now and Mkondo season they had to go and fight and learn to fight out there. Some of them, they never could come back and die, but some of them went and they trained. Let's go back and remember our people and become a nation that we say we are. And now we can't forget Ubuntu. Ubuntu is something else. Ubuntu tells you that now there was no one political party. They were all together, coming together and fight. But this whole thing was started by kings. And it is period. There was nothing political, nationalist here in this nation. We had kings and we need to give them that respect. And they also, as they comply with whatever that needs to be done in the nation, so that together we can reach out to a national unity government. Now, how that can be done in closure, that can be achieved through us harmoniously coming to a place of decision and saying, looking at where we come from, how they fought, it's a disgrace to our forebears. The fight that they fought cannot just go into a drain right now. Doesn't matter when, however covenants were made or taken, doesn't matter. We need to turn now. One will expect me to say, let's fight the government. No, I'm saying we are the ones to assist the government. We are going to assist the government to do the right decisions. And also through the law, through the acts. Now, every act that is, or bill that is passed there to be uniformed to become an act or law and so forth, we need to make an assurance that it comes from even the people. It is a minimum over agreed upon by the people. And if it's not agreed by the people, I'm asking the leadership not to take any step. Don't take the step. This will cripple your, not just your legacy, it will cripple your household. This thing will cripple your household, your name. It will cripple your name. This thing will remain on your name the rest of your generations and generations. So whatever that you are doing or that you are not doing, you will be crippling your children's. Your loin will be imprisoned. Your loin will be, your seed will be captured. So don't state capture as something as a baby. State capture as a baby to a loin capture. If you capture a seed, state capture as a baby. State capture is a baby. But if your seed is captured, say, or mem, if you are closed, you are not going to give birth on anything. Anything that comes will be cursed because of the decisions that are made by the fathers today. Whatever decision that will be made by elders or by leaders, they must know it's a decision that is in line with their lives, their families, the people of South Africa. And moreover, when you see old people dying and crying, you need to know there's going to be danger. If the Lord had to turn his back on this nation, there's going to be a great danger. Thank God for those who are standing by the mountain and praying. Thank God for those who are standing and calling out of him, the Lord who's the Almighty. Thank God for you. Stand in prayer and continue praying so grace can actually now abide. And I want to say to all of us that Dompas laws were actually built up progressively, and they were permitted by time, and they used force, and blood was shed. Many people died. We lost lives. We don't need to go back there, South Africa. We can't go back there, South Africa. And if South Africa can stand for this, and if now the administrators, the president, and the parties that are running the country can allow the people to make a decision for them, you would see actually people will applaud you for the rest of your lives. Remember, 2100 is coming, and most of those who are in leadership today will be no more. Everybody that is in the parliament today will be no more. And I need every politician in the parliament in the Western Cape to make that introspection. All the 13 politicians that are in the parliament, whether you're fighting for the people, whether you are mocking your people, whether you are, however you are there, I need you to make an introspection and think about this. 2100, you might not be alive. So what is the worth of standing and fighting and not telling the truth? If you fall down, men can fall and come up again. It's okay. We will, just all of us, we are born in this world. So that's not a problem. But if a man can say and change his mind, that's a wise man. May all the wise men in that parliament change their minds and start speaking the truth. We don't need politics and rhetoric appeals. We need men of truth who will speak it as it is and say it's about time, whether it's exposure, whether it's however to say, let's stand for the truth. Let the truth, be told, and let the truth set the people of this nation, the people of the republic, free. And I'm standing to declare that South Africa, don't go the route of Dompas law. Don't go that route. Not in South Africa. We cannot afford it now. So, but if you can't refrain from the plan, allow your communities to fight for your leadership. Allow them to make decisions that are actually against what you are doing. You would see that will save you from the international, whether an external force that could be coming, meaning forcefully, however, through debt diplomacy or whatever that is being put on us, whether there's a hand on a government, whether it's any diplomatic kind of relationship, it's okay. But you can be saved by your people. And I want to say to all of you, thank you so much for coming on board. This is Kairos TV, the final way. Don't miss it out. We're continuing tomorrow. Something very important. One of the important topics ever. The Land Act of 1913. It will be extrapolating whether expropriation with or without compensation. And we'll be breaking it down to now know the truth of what should happen. And this will happen tomorrow. And I'm just inviting each and every one of you. Don't miss it. Each and every one of you be part of this wonderful, I would say, time that we'll be spending tomorrow as we celebrate our Heritage Day in South Africa. Sadly so, that we are celebrating a Heritage Day without meaning inheritance. It's very sad. So tomorrow, just to put it to you there, we are dealing with that matter. We have dealt with Dompas today. Tomorrow is the Land Act of 1913 at 3 p.m. At 3 p.m. Tune in, call others, let's talk. Come and hear High Story with myself, B.J Langa. May the good Lord bless you wherever you are. Bless you and bless you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Wherever you are, have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much. God bless you.